Welcome to THINKpod. My name is Francisco.
And I'm Aziz, and at ThinkPod, we speak about the smartest ideas and the biggest challenges facing the world right now. We speak about where we are, how we got here, and where we're going.
In this episode of ThinkPod, we talk to Peter Ohnemus, President and CEO of Dacadoo, who has developed a global health score system using technology to provide health risk assessments. We talk about innovation, what the challenges are to the growth of the digital health industry, and his predictions for the future of healthcare.
Peter, so you've had a very decorated career that spanned multiple industries.
Yeah.
What lessons have you taken from one industry to the other, if there are any?
When I was a little boy, I was not so quiet in school. And my school teacher told me, Peter, and no disrespect, you're going to be a taxi driver. And then I kind of thought about that. I thought that's great because you have a lot of liberty, you see the world. And then later in life, I was like, when somebody tells me something is not possible and you are not capable of doing this, then I start getting motivated. So my whole life, I founded my first company when I was 14. I lived in Denmark. And they were bringing out these newspapers for the supermarkets, and you had to be over 14. But there were all the other kids playing on the street. There was 12, 13, and they were not old enough to go from door to door. So I founded my little company. Of course, it was not a company. And then I got more and more routes. So in the end, I actually had 4,000 private homes where we were bringing those things in. And the reason that I tell this story is wherever there's a will, there is a way. For all the young listeners or upcoming next generation, I just think, dream it, make it happen. When people tell you you are not allowed to bring out newspapers or you're not allowed to do this, that's bad. You need to have an open mind.
I have a question to kind of reflect on the year. What have you been up to and Dacadoo broadly in the last year?
If you look at the past year, it's the craziest I've ever seen. I normally travel 150 to 200 days per year and, all around the world all the time. And we're a global company. And suddenly, I was with my family and really with my family. And I think COVID was a unique chance, at least for me, to reflect on my life and spend more time with the family. And as an entrepreneur, when I went to do, my business classes and started an MBA that I never finished because I didn't have time, they tell you should be trained for everything. But you couldn't have been trained for COVID. I mean, suddenly you were not allowed to go into your office. Suddenly, you were only allowed to have one person in one room. And so what I learned over the last 12 months is more than ever how flexible mankind is. And that goes down to my wonderful wife, my kids, and all the employees in my company. Everybody was like adapting into a new world. And unfortunately, I don't think it's the last one. And I know people don't like to hear this, but I think it gave us, with the whole digitalization, if you think about healthcare, my youngest daughter, she studies medicine, and she says the professors at university, they cannot even spell the word digital without being funny. And if you think about just those last 12 months, my parents are up in their 80s, and they would never have used telehealth. Suddenly, guess what? With COVID, they were like, I'm not going outside the house, I'm at risk. They were, doing video conferencing, even that they didn't know how to do video conferencing with a doctor. So everybody talks about the negative aspects. I talk about the positive aspects. Number one, we produced the largest, vaccine and medicine distribution we have ever seen in mankind in less than 12 months. Number two is we saved hundreds and hundreds of millions of lives. That there are challenges, this we don't have to discuss about, but for me, it was a wonderful period to reflect on how these huge opportunities are coming now in digital health.
You just talked about vaccines, and your current work is in digital healthcare.
Yeah.
I personally come from a household of 4 doctors.
Beautiful.
Can you tell us a little bit more about digital doctors? Are they the future?
A few years ago, I gave a speech at Stanford on digital health. And afterwards, there was a professor that came up to me and he said, I don't like you. And I was like, that's okay, yep. And he was honest about it because he said, we study medicine. He didn't like me as a person, that was not the point. He said, I don't like what you stand for.
Oh.
And he said, I didn't study medicine to look into a computer. I want to talk with human beings, or else I would have become a banker and look into my Bloomberg terminal. And I said to him, sorry, sir, I think there's something you gotten wrong. Doctor today spends over 50% of their time documenting things, sitting, handwriting things. Then they have to order drugs, etc., etc. What I was getting at was, if you digitalize health in the right way, you will have so much more time with your patients. And I believe, and that's what I say to my own daughter who studies medicine, I believe healthcare is the most beautiful thing you can be in, because you make a difference. But you don't make a difference if you're sitting in your office writing, reports, etc., and you don't spend time with the people. And I believe that digital health will release a lot of work that no doctor likes to do, and will actually give you net more time to spend with the patients.
What are the challenges to go to a completely digital healthcare system?
Number one is, or are, the regulators worldwide. It's the most regulated industry, and in my eyes, that's a bit sad. When I founded Dacadoo, we came up with the idea to do this global health score, which is now growing very nicely. When I first founded Dacadoo, I thought Big Pharma would be interested because they would want to know, how does people's health improve if I take this drug? And they saw it as a threat. Then I was like, okay, let me take it to Stanford, let me take it to Royal Institute of Medicine. And they kind of couldn't put it in a box that they were trained to. So they were kind of a bit skeptical on, what on earth is this thing? So to answer your question, I think if you have been trained to look in a book and talk to a patient, and then, as you know, most doctors, they like to do handwriting, which is still reality today. What I'm getting at is the system itself is standing on its own toes, and I don't know if it makes sense. Today, we could do so much more in digital health. I cannot prove it. McKinsey says we can take out 25 to 30% of the global healthcare cost. So we spent $8 trillion on healthcare. And coming back to my wonderful daughters, they of course always provoke me, and they're like, yeah, that's an old fat man like you. And I love it. And then I'm like, you see, that's exactly why we need to change the system. So I believe it's about quality of life. I believe digital health will give us a longer, healthier life. And I know this might sound a bit funny for the younger people. I don't want to get 200 years old because, why do I want to live with 200 and I have no more friends left? But while I'm here, I want to have a quality of life. And I think digital health will give a very high quality of life. It will give independence, and it will provide a unique opportunity to society.
You briefly mentioned the global health score that you've developed. We have recently at the FI Institute released the Global Infectious Disease Index.
I saw that, yes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a revolutionary tool, and we're very proud of that. But we wanted to ask you more about the Global Health Score. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you've done there?
I would be happy to do that. Originally, I come from the database industry, so I built, some different software companies. And then when I turned 40, my oldest daughter, at my 40th birthday, said, "Daddy, what do you do other than make money?" And then I thought, that was a good question. I'm very close with her, and even that I travel a lot. And then I was, started thinking about this. So I founded Asset 4, where we were doing sustainability rating. So I was the first one in the world to score the world's 4,000 largest public quoted companies based on their sustainability. So I looked at carbon emission, did the first carbon pricing in, what does it mean on a public company, looked at water usage, female compensation, board representation, etc. Long story short, built that company, Asset 4, together with Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, and sold it to Thomson Reuters. So I thought, if you can do a sustainability rating of a public quoted company, you can do a sustainability rating of a human life. And here comes the crazy story. So imagine we spent $8 trillion on healthcare worldwide, and we don't have a balance sheet. So we basically just tell Mrs. Smith, eat more pills, and Mr. Whatever, do this and that. Of course, I'm provoking, but you have to imagine if we would have a company together, let's say the three of us, we are in our mid-20s, we start a cool company, and then a VC guy comes in, or girl, and gives us money, and then we're like, no, we don't have an annual report, we don't have a balance sheet. So my idea was create something meaningful to society and make it a proxy, make it a North Star of people's health. So that became the health score. We started in 2010. We hired 25 data scientists and medical professors, also from MIT in America, from Europe, Asia. And we said it has to be a holistic health score that any person on the planet can understand. So I invented the health score, but actually the model was invented by Da Vinci. So Da Vinci made this wonderful drawing, as you may recall. So basically he made the drawing and said, we consist of our body, we consist of our mindset, and we consist of what we do. And that was how we built the health score, but we wanted it to be academic validated, so all those conservative doctors could not come after us, all the conservative insurance people. So we spent close to 10 years developing the health score. So we were like a biotech company. We scored 300 million man-years of clinical data, so probably the largest ever done in the world. And today we have a health score. On top of that, we built a navigation system. We call it Wheel of Life because you drive through life. And we have built in your activity, your mental well-being, your nutrition, your alcohol consumption, cigarette consumption. So basically anything to give a holistic view of your life. Today we have 35 of the top 100 life and health insurance companies in the world. So basically give people something they understand. So my daughter, the youngest one, she's 20. She's now doing a challenge with my father, who's 84, on the health score. So the health score is normalized, both for sex and for age. And it is based on the 3 pillars that I mentioned before. And then we built a risk engine. So that risk engine looks at what is Peter's risk of getting cancer if he lives this way? What is Peter's risk of getting diabetes? So diabetes today, unfortunately, and particularly in the Middle East, is the most common disease. So we now have in the Middle East around 11% diabetes. We know it can cause cancer later in your life. You can turn blind, as you know, etc. I know those are not so nice topics. So why not stop diabetes before it starts? And that's the risk models that we have built, and that goes up to the lifestyle navigator. So of course, for the cool young people on your show today, I imagine this avatar. I wake up in the morning and the avatar says, "Hey Peter, how did you sleep?" I say, "I slept good." And then it listens to my voice and then it says, "Hey Peter, you sound a bit dry. Drink more water." And then it says, "Shouldn't we just do half an hour fitness together?" And then, I do my little dances together with the avatar. And I call this my healthy twin. I know we're not there yet, but I'm an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs, they dream. But we are getting very close. So the next generation, iPhones, etc., they can, as you know, create avatars that comes directly out of the phone. We're already this far today that we have fully integrated 130 different trackers. So last year, I had a chip in my shoulder, and I was tracking in real time my glycose. And, this is pretty cool. So basically, I can see how much do I move, how much sugar do I have in the blood, etc. So I think, digital health, I think it's going to become the biggest industry in the world.
How do you quantify mental health, particularly within those 3 pillars?
So, a very good question. Unfortunately, with COVID, and I'm always honest, we saw a lot of mental health. So we have telemedicine built into the platform, and we saw a very significant increase in mental health. And my own father, as a legal disclaimer, is a shrink. So I believe mental health is one of the most important pillars of our society. Mental health you can quantify in multiple ways. When I started working on the health score 10 years ago, we built quant models, mathematical models, on the noise around you, very important for mental health, the temperature around you, your meeting levels, your travel activity, your inactivity. So it's very easy to determine if your circle gets smaller and smaller, that's early detection of depression. So to answer your question, there are multiple ways you can detect it, and we will see how things will evolve over time. It's like a questionnaire which is approved by the standard associations of medical doctors. So basically, we believe in the future I will have this digital twin, and that digital twin will help me answer some of these questions. Another very important issue, at least in my opinion, is many people today live alone, and this is not good in my eyes. As you can feel, I'm a very social person. I believe all of us should try to have friends, and we're all different. I'm not you, you're not me. So we try with the Dacadoo platform to create what we call groups. So let's say that I would be a smoker and I would like to try to stop smoking. You could imagine to join a smoking group where you could, all these kind of things we are building into the platform. Another topic that I think, which is difficult to solve, and I have already filed a patent for it, is what I call talk groups. So you could basically anonymous just join a group and talk with other people, and hopefully you meet somebody that you like. And I'm not talking about partnering people, but just somebody to talk to. So everything we do with Dacadoo is we first need to understand. That was why I created the health score. People also ask me why it's called Dacadoo, so I just want to explain that. So it comes from when you compose music. It's the fourth rhythm of music, so it's Dacadoo, Dacadoo. So basically, if you're in rhythm in life, you're happy. If you're outside rhythm, it doesn't go so well. So if you go on the dance floor and there's a cool DJ and you dance absolutely crazy, it looks a bit weird. Yeah. Life is the same. You gotta find a balance, and raising 5 crazy daughters, you learn how each of them are different and how we're all different, and that's what makes life so beautiful.
In terms of the public perception on a broad level to the solution that you're offering, do you feel there are some fears about privacy and data being shared, and how would you address that perhaps?
I think next to the regulator, that's the biggest topic. So when we founded Dacadoo, I'm a very private person, so I said we will never license data, so it's our foundation. So we did GDPR 7 years before anyone could even spell GDPR. So we don't do any advertising. You own all the data. The data is in an encrypted container. So the user says, if I want to share. So my father, I mentioned before, is 84. He hates, all these social things, but he wants to see how is his health score compared to other 84-year-old men in Copenhagen. So what I'm getting at is you own the data. You decide what you want to do with the data. So one of the patents I've built is called Ledger of Life. So Ledger of Life means that the data is on a distributed ledger, also known as the blockchain, but the way I use it is it doesn't have to be the blockchain because I think there will come something smarter. So we call it a distributed ledger. Let's say I would have a rare blood type. And let's say I'm a student and I maybe do not have so much money. And then I could share my rare blood type with a research organization and they would pay my health insurance in exchange. So the whole idea, I call this the something for something economy. I don't want anyone to address me on Dacadoo that I don't know, that I don't like. But I want to be able, if I see something where I say, this is good for the world, and maybe I would want to, share my data. Or with my doctor, as we talked about before, so we have programmed something called the Health Professional View. So I could give a encrypted, so we encrypt both at rest and in transfer, that people could see my data if I want this doctor to see my data.
Speaking of making a difference, you're a very passionate family man. You talked about your parents.
Yeah.
You're a very proud father of 5 daughters.
5 daughters.
Right. What type of legacy would you like to leave with your work for future generations?
When you are where I am, you want to make a difference, but you want to make a tangible difference. So one thing is to donate money to something, which I do and highly respect, but to do something where you really, really make a difference. And I'm trying to help my kids. So one of my daughters, she went to work free in Latin America in a kindergarten. Very, very dangerous. So these are orphan kids. You have guys coming in with machine guns, and I'm not making fun, taking away, one of their children that has been taken away for violence. And I had one who went to Asia. So I think all young people should think about a lot earlier than I did. And as I said, make a difference, speak out. You guys asked me some tough questions today, and I love that. And I think you should be critical.
Well, Peter, we thank you so much for being at the ThinkPod. We appreciate your time, and we hope to see you very soon.
Thank you so much, and it was wonderful to spend time with you guys.
We would love you to let others know about this podcast.
So please rate us, leave us a comment, and share with someone who might enjoy it too.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next episode.